Mostly harmless. Mostly harmless? Oh, come. I think that's pretty good coverage for this disintegrated pile of rubble.
Hi, this is Eric.
This is Sean.
And this is Isaac.
Okay, we are now picking up on the third episode of this story. So before we start into the third episode, Forest of Fear. So I'm pretty sure this wasn't explained in the first two, but I'm sure you've noticed, Isaac, that we use the nomenclature like episode and story when talking about classic Doctor Who. And if you put that together about how that works and how we kind of keep referring to this as an Unearthly Child, or we sometimes say the Tribe of Gum, but you see that each episode has its own unique title at the same time.
Yeah, it's if I may, just allow me to cook, if you don't mind.
Please do.
It's like how with like certain either miniseries or just like a run of American mainstream comic books, where they'll have the same character. Let's just use Batman for instance, and then he's doing a mini. Like this one writer comes in and does like a miniseries. They can have that whole thing be called, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then each individual issue is, again, called something else. But overall, while it's still Batman, it's then subtitle and then like issue title. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It certainly does.
This is something like, it reminds me of like Big Finish, which the Doctor Who audio dramas. Yeah, they do that with those.
Yeah, and then I don't have it in front of me because I don't have real research for these commentaries at this time. But was it up until around season 2, Sean, do you remember, of classic Doctor Who, where they discontinued having the individual episode title names?
It was, I want to say the Time Meddler might be the first one without episode names, but don't gamble on that.
That was the end of season 1, right? Time Meddler? Or was it end of season 2?
I don't remember. What am I, Steven Shapansky?
I think that was the season 2 finale, perhaps, of classic Doctor Who.
If I had my books near me, I could look it up.
Yeah, so Isaac, so in the first 2 years, full 2 years / seasons of classic Doctor Who, because they would do in the beginning like an ungodly, like, I don't know, 50 weekly episodes a year or something. Like, it was an outrageous work schedule. And after season 2, I guess, they discontinued the individual episode title names, and then they just started calling it like the overall story name, and it would just say like episode 1 or part 1, part 2, part 3. So retroactively, when we discuss the first 2 seasons of classic Doctor Who, we just collectively call them by the whole name that we've sort of assigned. So this one's called On an Unearthly Child, even though that's technically only the name of the first episode. But we just do that because after season 2, everything is grouped by story, and there are no more individual titles.
That was an amazing explanation. Bravo!
Terrible.
Bravo!
Terrible. But yeah, so that's why we always use that terminology, episode and story.
And now we'll be joined by Professor Sean, who's going to explain the history of production codes of Doctor Who. Ah!
Yeah, this is all insane Doctor Who fan stuff, who they know like episode A, B, AA, BB, AAA, and yeah, whatever. Things that the general public would normally never be exposed to, but certain people have them memorized.
Yeah. Not me anymore.
Not me ever. But, all right. So, I am doing this for possibly my first time on a commentary, which is I am telling everyone to gather around, grab your copy of episode 3, which is the Forest of Fear or Forest of Fear. We actually, 2 of us have the original physical DVD, and we have it as close to 0 timestamp 0000 paused, and we will hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. Oh, good. Yes.
I don't remember. I think it was the second episode that we did. Isaac, you said something that actually was like, oh, I guess he's seen this before. And I'll explain what it is when it comes up. I believe it's this episode.
Okay. That's kind of foreboding, and or at least not menacing at all.
Oh, well, I just had to say it so I remember it.
Well, that's fair, I guess. Yeah, it's foreshadowing, I suppose. Foreshadowing is a narrative device or literary device that in which.
So, looks like a lot of people have been killed before in this area that they're bound in. Oh,
True story. This is the same hole. I say hole. This is the same place where Jesus was put after his crucifixion.
oh, wow.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Literally, yeah. He's resided there for 3 days.
Because I had time earlier today, I did actually take the time to rewatch these 2 episodes so I wouldn't go in completely cold. Because again, it's been ages since I saw these last.
Since the Stone Age.
And yeah, I was actually paying more attention today than I ever have on these 2 episodes. And because I was wondering, why is it called, so where they're being kept, the prisoners, is it another cave that connects to the outside? Is that what the deal is?
That's what I thought, but it doesn't connect to the outside. It's just like an adjacent room.
But there's like some secret passage that I guess a lot of the cave people weren't aware of, like an alternate way to get out of that, which is a weird place to keep prisoners, by the way, where there happens to be like...
I don't know, but they escape pretty easily, don't they? Somebody's like, well, I feel a draft. Let's go that way.
Right. Well, of course, the old woman helps them, but I also assumed she came in through the other entrance.
Well, here's the thing. So I've had not recently, a while ago, I was having writing problems of this this one scene. It was driving me up the wall of like, how do I get my character out of this without it breaking the story or making the other characters look stupid. So they realized, okay, so we stuck our group of heroes here, or at least the protagonists here, the time travelers. We stuck them in this room that has like a but a big boulder as a door, so they cannot get out. But the problem is that they wanted this lady to come in here and say we must, make sure there cannot be any fire, implying that she's gonna, conk them in the head with that stone there. And what the script required is that she needs to get inside that room, right? Problem is, I mean, she's probably a little bit older, and she will not be able to push said stone across, or out of the way. So we needed to get her inside. So we made a convenient hole on the other side of the wall that nobody knew about.
Yeah, it's wild. Because I was thinking about that today for the first time. Because I just wasn't paying attention when I watched The Tribe of Gum, which is what colloquially we call the 3 episodes.
That's fair.
Since they feel so different from the first episode.
I never thought about that before. You're absolutely right.
I know. I was paying attention and I was like, what is happening?
It's on right now, actually, too, that scene. Oh, of course. We're all synced. Of course it's on right now.
Oh, there you go.
About.
And see, this is also the thing that people don't realize is that there was apparently a back door inside that same cave that Jesus was able to get out of. Because, of course, he wouldn't be able to, leave just by, pushing the stone away, right?
So you're saying that the writers of the Gospels had the same writing issue that they had to write themselves out of.
I mean,
Box.
how else are you supposed to with inhuman strength to like push away, something heavy that would take,
A little
several
miracle,
people to move?
Just a little miracle.
Yeah, but he's Jesus.
That's
you
true.
know? I mean, he can turn water into wine, walk on water. He can cure the sick, raise the dead, raise himself from the dead.
But he never was able to give people fire, though.
Oh boy. She just pops in through the back door.
Since Easter is upon us, you ever hear Jesus was up on the cross and Peter is down below looking up at him, and Jesus goes, Peter, I need to tell you something. Please come up here. I can't speak loudly. So Peter clambers up there and he says, what is it, Jesus? What's wrong? And Jesus says, you won't believe it. I can see your house from here. Just look over there. That's the joke. That's the end of the joke.
Wow.
God, I felt like Jeb Bush there for a second. Please clap.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think I can hear clams clapping right now.
Wow.
No, those are clowns crying.
So this situation now it's happening, is this like an Othello situation or Macbeth or Iago in Othello? Like
I don't know what that is.
She's putting so we have this couple of K people.
I only read Choose Your Own Adventure books.
She's kind of like whispering over his shoulder, and like she's like putting all these ideas and doubts and insecurities into the guy's head. Like this is like classic Shakespeare stuff.
I'm gonna just go with Macbeth. For Lady Macbeth is whispering into Macbeth's ear to go and murder Macduff.
Oh, okay.
Or not murder Macduff. That's also true.
Yeah, I always picture Iago as the parrot, except not the parrot. Like in Othello's ear, putting all these insecurities into his head. But yeah, she's just spinning this tale with her feminine wiles.
So Iago would give him insecurities?
Yeah.
So that's why they cast Gilbert Gottfried to play him in Aladdin.
Because why?
That's kind of his shtick.
Oh yeah, that is his thing. Yes,
yeah.
Of course. Yes, that's Iago's role in the adaptation of.
I didn't notice that the whole time. It's the big gaping hole.
Hey, when did we get a back door in this place? Should probably put a rock there. I mean, for all we know, maybe there was like a earthquake or something and the hatch opened up. As far as I'm aware, they don't have explosives yet. Unless there's like a geyser of some sort.
Jeez. I can't remember. Did they... Oh, yeah. I mean, was there any other explanation other than... Because the old woman wants to set them free because she tells our heroes, like, whenever they get fire, it leads to bad things. But she doesn't ever give any more insight than that, right? But she, like, gives up her whole life. I mean, just to forward that cause.
Yeah,
right?
That's an interesting point. I guess you could call her, what do they call those people? Luddites? Who are opposed to technology?
I think, oh yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, no, it's wanting to see a film kind of centered around that and go into the insight of why they believe that.
Well, there might be a Doctor Who episode about that.
Ooh, cool.
And the way they pull off, I guess, these forest scenes, because they're in a really small studio. And so, you know, they have to do all these tight shots and everything to, you know, give the illusion of being in a forest. And of course, plenty more classic Doctor Who will do this. Classic Trek would do it at times, TOS. But even in the early seasons of The Next Generation, I remember so many forests that were filmed in the same type of way.
Yes.
It's crazy.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Later in TNG, they started doing more actual location shooting, but in those early years...
Like the one where Wesley steps on the grass. Oh, Wesley, you. Oh, and they want to put him to death.
That's a good one. But they look like they're doing a lot of shooting at like a botanical garden in Southern California for that one. I think about the one where they go to the planet where the AI produces like war battle arms and technology for war, and the AI is left on, and they're constantly in a forest that looks like this, like tiny set.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and one of them falls in a hole, like Jordy or Riker falls in a hole.
Oh, fuck. It's the antimatter one, right?
There's these drones that
Isaac is on the edge of his seat.
that the AI produces, and these little drones are just flying around killing people.
Is this classic Who?
No, this is TNG.
Oh.
This is TNG I'm talking about.
I don't know. I thought it was Doctor Who you were talking about.
Now, what do you think about all this intense melodrama that comes up a lot in this story and is happening now, where everyone's like freaking out? Like, Barbara's having like a panic attack right there. And then the doctor himself seems like he's on his last leg just from escaping.
Yeah, that's interesting that they actually started with this, with these people actually, instead of being Superman or something, they're actually just normal people, and they're vulnerable.
Yes.
And they're going to argue under tense situations like this.
And the idea is that because these are like everyday people, save for the doctor, because you have the companions, you can almost use them as blank slates and project yourselves in there. And again, that's this is how they would have reacted. Everybody, if you were in this situation, I know we've seen this like maybe 100 times exaggerated afterwards. Like you just think of the last Jumanji film. Of like, oh yeah, as soon as you get in there, you're the Rock, and you're just gonna beat the ever living crap out of whatever's hiding in the bushes.
I like those movies. I'm really sorry to admit.
And of course, there's a Doctor Who companion in those newer ones.
Yeah, Karen Gillan.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Kevin Hart, but okay.
Oh my gosh.
So I actually don't mind this melodrama because, like I said last time, this is, I think, the entire crux of the point. Is I guess this is okay. Can I just let me cook again, please? This idea is like sprung from like pedantics and arguments that are happening on like radios or televised debates that happen, and they're like, okay, let's take that from modern day. We're gonna have a time traveler who also kind of like belittles and criticizes modern day people, and then we're gonna end up going back in time to where we first start seeing arguments between like the early man.
Oh, okay, with the cave people, yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is basically we are, no matter what era it is, like from the furthest earliest, like when we first came to be, to this, and maybe he's an alien but he's looking humanoid and he's from the future, we will always have arguments. We have to just like put those aside and learn to hope, because that's one of the buzzwords of this episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, on the one hand, it is kind of the premise that happens all the time and will happen in Doctor Who going forward, because obviously they're constantly showing up randomly in new locations. But at first I was thinking you were going to say that this story itself with the Tribe of Gum and everything is playing off of like those, I don't know what you even call that genre in the 50s and 60s, but that like that movie, what is it, like 65 million BC, and those other movies, I can't think of the titles, like Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Oh yeah,
something. Or even like King Kong, except those are like those tribal genre films.
Pulp,
same thing.
Lost
Civilized
World.
people. Yeah, Lost World. But civilized people getting stuck in a prehistoric thing, but it's kind of both. It is that, and it's the whole idea. I said,
it's the Poseidon adventure with dinosaurs instead of instead of an overturned cruise ship.
That's true. And I had mentioned last time again H.G. Wells, and you were like, "Oh, there's kind of an H.G. Wells connection here."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, especially in the next story, especially.
I see.
What?
Okay.
I don't know what he's talking.
Yes, you do.
All right,
The
so
next
this
story.
is a very, very controversial scene. In fact, the reason that I thought you had seen this already was last time we recorded, you said, yeah, just lots of people being smashed in the face with rocks. And we're about to see, maybe I started talking about this too soon, but the doctor's about to pick up a rock and smash the poor cave guy here. And very controversial scene. Like he just does this one time. I don't know. Maybe it was something he was smoking earlier on in the story. But
Well,
anyway,
speaking of that too, not just that, but even though I have known this, just like lots of other Doctor Who fans forever, that the character of the original Doctor is quite different from later times. I already knew that going in, obviously, but yet when I was watching this today earlier, God, it stuck out to me how irascible he is, how crotchety he is, and you just want to be in charge. Like when he's talking to Ian, you just want to push me out, and he's just, God, he is so contemptible in this. Again, I knew that going in, but it still stuck out at me.
yeah. If somebody who had watched, like the David Tennant on, and I hear people say this on podcasts, they're like, oh, you know what? I think I'm going to start with the first one, the Unearthly Child, and work up from there. Nobody can do that. It is
No normal people can do that.
I am.
Oh, bless your heart. But it's okay. All right. Okay.
Well, I mean, if I can talk about it briefly, I assume I don't know what the non-interference clause is here. If the whole like he just changed in like time forever by killing this one man. Like, I mean, they've already like interfered with the timeline, so I don't know if the butterfly effect is in complete effect here, or if again we're just like
it takes a while and they will slowly start delving into that concept you speak of, but it won't be for a very long time to where they really start explaining like what the rules are, if there are rules. Like it's going to come way later. But yeah, they don't worry about it that much for the most part in classic Doctor Who, except sometimes.
Except for when they want to make a story about it.
Yes, except for when they want to make a story about it. They don't care about it. But in modern Who, just like other franchises, there's like explanations for everything now. But that came way later.
Isaac, did you know that David Tennant is married to Peter Davison's daughter, and Peter Davison played the Fifth Doctor in the 80s?
Was that intentional? Like, was that intentional? Like, was that arranged marriage, or was that just by happenstance?
It's British rules, arranged marriages and things of that nature.
She was on an episode, a fairly not that good episode, and she met him on that. Two young people, they're both pretty, and ended up getting married and fucking and having kids and all that.
Still married?
They are still married.
Yeah.
That's good.
And,
happy.
And her son, who is not David, like her son from prior marriage, he was the one who played the kid in House of Dragon who got naked on the balcony in House of Dragon. That would be David Tennant's stepson.
Did he go to Matt Smith and say, "Hey, can you get me a part in this? Just tell him." I want to seem like
in House of Dragon, the Doctor's son is also the Doctor's nephew in the series House of Dragon. The Doctor's real life son is the other Doctor's nephew in the series.
There's some nerds who know that, like on the we're not going to tell anybody.
I'm just more like, wait, which one? Because there's a lot of doctors here.
So he's the real life grandson of a doctor, son of a doctor, but then in the show, House of the Dragon, nephew of a doctor.
Oh, this is where he's about to kill the guy with the rock. My bad.
Okay.
What are you doing?
This is somewhere in the scene. Ian says to Barbara, "Your flat must be filled with stray cats and dogs." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope not. It's going to smell really bad by the time she gets home.
But yeah, the way it is explained years later is that this is obviously just about the youngish version of the Doctor that we get to see in stories. So that's how we retcon how incredibly different his character is.
And Terrence Dicks tried to do it when he wrote The Eight Doctors, which was one of the first releases that when BBC Books took it over.
Yeah, that would be like our Doctor Who Legends novels.
Terrence Dicks was a terrible author.
Old school. Pulp. Those guys were, well, in my mind, I'm not an expert on this, but I always just think of them as like old-fashioned pulp writers.
Yeah. That's what that's how those Target books read.
Yeah. Of course, I loved them when I used to collect them.
I know. I devoured them like candy as a kid. Now when, I think last time I mentioned this, I read Marco Polo. Boring. It's a horrible story. It's like a travel log of a trip across the desert and various places where they stop.
I think my first Target that I bought at the used bookshop was Carnival of Monsters, I think.
Such a cool name.
And I thought the book was super cool. At least in my memories, the novelization was better than the actual story. But I like that story too.
There was one Key to Time book that I couldn't get, and I wanted to get all 5 of the Key to Time. I don't remember which one it was, but it was an obsession for a while because we had a rule. I had a problem not doing homework, so we'd have to have this thing signed off by our teachers saying what assignments we missed, and your mom would have to sign off. And the rule was, if you come home and you do not have a report saying you didn't do some homework, I'll buy you a Doctor Who book. Oh, okay, all right. So we'd go out to like B. Dalton's or Walden Books and Skokie.
Oh, you got new ones?
Yeah, they were still selling them in the, and then afterwards we go to the movies, and then I'd go home and fucking spend the rest of the night reading my Target Doctor Who like a little nerd. But those were good times.
I never got a new one back in the day.
And I didn't understand how Doctor Who worked, and I thought all of the stories had Tom Baker in them. So I'm reading like, I don't know, the War Games, but it's Tom Baker instead of Patrick Troughton in my mind.
In your head.
Yeah.
Woo! So things are heating up. Things are looking bad because now everyone's starting stories in the tribe, and they think that the couple of Kate people are working in cahoots with the Time Team, and they think the Time Team murdered the old woman. Like so much, what do you call it?
Mistrust, misinformation, distrust.
Yeah, that and the whole mob mentality thing is getting out of control.
Mistrust, misinformation, mob mentality, and murder.
Yes. Dial M.
That's what we call quadruple alliteration in the theater. All right.
Quite.
Well, we're going to step out of the picture room real quick, get some refreshments, and stay tuned for the conclusion of An Unearthly Child, the Tribe of Gum, a.k.a. the Firemaker.
After these messages, we'll be right back. Yeah.
And the Oscar goes to...
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 Hi, my name is Sean, and I am the co-host of the Best Picture podcast. Each season, my co-host Eric and I randomly select a year and talk about the Best Picture nominees of that year. with each episode dedicated to a different movie. Did the Best Picture really win? Were there any overlooked movies? Was anything nominated that probably shouldn't have been? Listen to us and find out. Look for us wherever you can get fine podcasts.
I'm sure we all still have our whatever edition you have of the final story of an Unearthly Child or Tribe of Gum, the Firestarter. And we will begin in 3, 2, 1, play.
Okay.
I always forget, it's been a long time since I've seen the documentary of how they made this original opening credit screen. But I can't even remember what those things are called, those digital readouts that they had, and then they did the whole feedback loop thing to achieve all these weird graphics, which would become a big thing in the late 60s in general, of like, you know, because this obviously predated the whole psychedelic era and everything. They are coming.
So is this where Stephen King was inspired to make the Firestarter?
Oh boy.
God. Oh, Isaac.
Hey man, I had to start something, right? Like these guys are supposed to make fire, so I gotta make fire my own or start my own fire.
Isn't Drew Barrymore a bit young to be in this?
Oh boy.
I think she's the kid.
Yeah, she's the kid, obviously, in the movie.
No, I meant in this episode.
Who's the dad in that movie? Is it like Kurt Russell or something?
I don't know.
I can't stop them.
There's a bit of murder. More baby oil, please. I need more baby oil.
Oh wait, dial in for murder, Sean. I think your cell phone's probably going off by this point.
For what?
Well, they've dialed M for murder, and you're our murder expert here. What's the most embarrassing way to die? Like the most embarrassing murder.
Oh, well, I have to imagine there's a lot of candidates for that.
Yeah, of course. Sean, off the top of your head, you can think of either like in fiction or something you've thought of before. Just like think of the most embarrassing way to die. I think maybe one of them is I was going to say like choking on your own breath, but that's not like embarrassing or anything like that.
I know I'm quiet, but I am seriously thinking here.
What about like James Carradine and autoerotic asphyxiation?
No, wasn't it David Carradine?
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say?
James.
Oh.
Well, he had a brother.
Right.
Yeah, there was that.
I really have to think about this now. Embarrassing. Oh man.
And let's as obvious as it would be to like say, oh, they choked on a dildo or something like that. Like again, like a la David Carradine. Not that way, of course. Just maybe let's avoid that and think of something like more like you put a balloon in your mouth and you died because the plastic blocked your airways.
Right. Or I choked on a pretzel or a ham sandwich. I actually have an answer for this. I just thought of it. About 20 years ago, I rented a documentary from our local video store. And I don't remember the name of it. It was kind of low budget, but it was a really good documentary about people that work with like crime scene, not necessarily crime scenes, but places where somebody has died like a couple weeks ago. And I remember this poor guy had died in his bathroom and he had left a trail of blood from the living room couch all the way to the bathroom, and then he died in the bathroom. And they said that he probably bled out of his anus because he had some sort of ulcer issue, or I don't remember. It was 20 years ago, and that really freaked me out.
Death by bloody enema.
Yeah.
And these people, like, they look through his pictures, and they were showing his pictures, and like, this is, handsome. He was gay guy, handsome, out on a cruise with friends. And it was just so fucking sad, man. Like, it's like, I'm gay. I don't have kids. I don't want to die like that. I don't want to be Gene Hackman. It's a horrible. That's it. That's an embarrassing way to die.
Oh,
I'm sorry, everybody. I think that's a really, really sad story.
through having dementia or Alzheimer's?
Well, that was his saving grace, because if he was in that
Well,
house with a body for 3 days, 4 days?
almost a week, I think.
Yeah, he didn't have any idea what was going on.
Well, could we be the first Doctor Who podcast who has gotten so macabre on a first Doctor episode commentary? Because I didn't see this one coming.
Well, I mean, the last one you said that the doctor murdered a guy, so
Well, there's a lot of murder in Doctor Who, a lot of crazy ones that will happen eventually. But I just want to go back for a second. It was kind of weird to me when I was watching this earlier today in the previous scene that just happened, when the Doctor was like, "Oh, the dagger," but let me see that dagger. But it's just like a flint stone or something. But they keep referring it to a dagger as a dagger, and he's like, "Well, let me see your dagger," and he just pulls out his rock.
I love the idea that these cavemen or cavewoman too, have come up with the idea of framing someone for a murder.
Yeah. Well, I love that they're doing the whole idea of framing. Get it? Kind of human nature. But I like how this turns into a little bit of a caveman CSI, crime scene investigation.
It sounds like you really enjoy this story, Eric.
Well, I'll say more about that when we wrap this up.
I just realized that embarrassing deaths, that's just 1,000 Ways to Die, isn't it? So,
Wow.
Whoops.
Right. I was thinking about the video game.
Fun Ways to Die. What was it? Australia that made that? Dumb Ways to Die.
I played it a lot when the first one came out.
There was a kid that lived down the street from me that died when he peed on the electric rail of the subway.
Oh,
sorry.
Dear.
I hardly know him. Kind of a really sad. Shut up. Okay.
So was there a feedback or what? Did it follow the trail?
Yeah, it went up. When he peed on it, it conducted in the urine and straight up went into his penis and shocked him.
I always have that thought, not that exact thought, but whenever I huck a loogie, I always think, if I were to reverse time like it's a video game, does that mean all the contents and the bacteria from the ground are going to get transferred back into my mouth? So if I spat inside the toilet bowl while I'm taking a leak, does that mean that I'm going to basically taste urine? But no, because if I'm rewinding time, that means everything goes in reverse. So that means that before the loogie hits the urine-soaked water,
Come on.
that means that all the bacteria in there are not going to transfer.
This is thermodynamics 101. Come on. And anyway, urine is sterile and
until it hits, until it makes contact.
Until you've been storing it in a metal container in your attic for 6 months. Boy, don't do that. You can
drink urine. It won't kill you, but it'll dehydrate you if you drink enough of it.
Well, that's the same as coffee, isn't it?
Okay.
Oh.
Shall we test that hypothesis out? I don't.
So you're saying that if I switched out my Bud's coffee tomorrow with urine, he's gonna have the same exact taste?
Okay, this is not the 2 a.m. show. This is Doctor Who Mostly Harmless, but you guys are making it into
quite harmless or quite harmful.
Mostly harmful Cutaway.
We're making fire. What can you say? Well, we're making fire here.
We're talking about the dish of the day.
Okay, so here's my other question for you guys. I assume, Eric, you probably can do it. Sean, you ever made fire this way?
No.
Or of a certain way without using a lighter, a butane lighter?
I know from watching Survivor that it's pretty much impossible if you don't at least have a flint. And even then, they can't do it in Survivor.
Well, it's not impossible. You just got to know what you're doing.
Well,
if you're doing,
yeah, exactly.
If you're doing it the way that he's doing it, you just got to know what you're doing. But I've never actually successfully done it with sticks or anything. I definitely tried a lot as a kid. But I would start fires all the time as a kid with a magnifying glass. All the time.
Well, there's always that too. Oh yeah, you burned ants, which is not cool.
Yep. Killed a lot of ants.
Not cool.
Poor ants.
Yeah.
We deprived them of
I always wonder about this in prehistoric times, like when humans or proto-humans were already harnessing the powers of fire. I always wonder how big the window was of, hey, we're using fire, but darn it, we still haven't figured out a reliable way to make it.
Geez, this is the only time where wildfires are the best thing for humans. Like, prehistoric times are the best times for wildland fires.
Because I feel like fire would be like smartphones. Like, you never had it, but then once you got it, it's just there.
They waited like every summer for the forest to burn. They're like, yes, we got it again. Ah, crap. Or at least if you're in the northern hemisphere.
Good job, Ian.
This is such a Survivor moment.
That or like they were probably freaked out whenever a lightning bolt struck the ground. And
who's this chick? Is somebody?
I wonder what that little girl is now. That's Clint Howard's sister.
First she was a heroin addict, then she's a methadone addict.
She reminds me a lot of young Clint Howard.
I'm into leather.
She became a Methodist? All right.
No, methadone. First I was a heroin addict, then I was a methadone addict.
I like how I can't remember where she is now, but the girl who was like with what was his name? Or the two who went out in the forest looking for the Doctor's companions, but the female of the duo, like even though she's a cave woman, she still had like a 1960s cave woman hairstyle.
Do you know where she is now?
Where is she, Sean?
On Earth.
In my freezer.
What is the theme of this commentary?
No.
Like, next to the ice cream?
Yeah.
Okay. You ever freeze Easter eggs?
No.
I haven't done Easter eggs since I was a preteen, I think.
Oh, okay.
I never froze any.
I mean, I do them again, but what are you babbling about, Eric?
I've never frozen Easter egg.
By the way, I'm so sorry, Eric. I was like, what are you babbling about? And then I interrupt you. What they're doing right now, like the way they're poised, it's like when you have two cats fighting. This is
I always wondered what all the skulls were supposed to be like. Were those supposed to be people who died in the chamber? Is that how they honor their dead?
Those were other time travelers from other shows that were canceled.
It's very Rick and Morty.
In fact, that one back there, that's Patrick Troughton.
And do we just shift to 16 millimeter or what happened? No, it's like
you are correct, ma'am. Yes.
Is that what happened?
Well, I'll be darned.
Nice panties.
You know, I'll give it this. I will say this. I know it seems maybe brutish, but I at least like that with the fight, it's not the Doctor or it's not the companions. It's just like the, I guess, residents of the time period doing it instead. So it's because obviously if this were Star Trek TOS, you can easily imagine, Kirk's in there with his shirt off and he's, just going all ham. Like he's drop kicking these guys. He's doing the old Kirk chop and the old judo toss. But I appreciate that it's like, just two cavemen instead that are bashing each other's skulls.
And we have the reaction shots from the protagonist in there. And it's interesting. I'm just going to mention that the other night we recorded for a movie called The Champ with boxing in it. The way that this is filmed is much better than King Vidor filmed the boxing.
Oh, that is hilarious. Wow.
Yeah, I just want to say that. I know it was 30 years earlier, so...
We're getting some unpleasant feedback from the Vidor estate.
I don't think so.
I'm not going to look kindly upon this commentary.
I'm going to file an anti-slap on that motion. This gentleman must work out. He's got very nice
but I was going to
glutes.
say, speaking of TOS and those protagonist close-ups, that is not something we generally ever see in classic Doctor Who, like Star Trek close-ups like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess now. Sorry.
In TOS, yes, but in classic Doctor Who, that is a very uncommon technique.
Many years ago, when Tom and I were really bad alcoholics and we went out every Friday and Saturday night, but that was back when drinks were like $6 each.
Yeah,
I would do this
2023.
thing. What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Trying to tell my story. You keep interrupting. Anyway, so I did this thing whenever we would be sitting down smoking, because we smoked back then. I would go over time and put my hands around him and go, mine, mine. And I was doing the cave girl when Barbara goes to attend to her boyfriend's wounds. She's mine. She's jealous of you, Susan. So then, like 2 years later, I was playing this for some reason. I'm like, hey, look at this. We shared a laugh. What a dry story. I'm not going to tell the story anymore.
How many people have like little fire maker love games with their significant other? What is with these production values, by the way? Like the torch has been blowing out the contrast on the videotape. The original.
Well, now I know you're watching. I know you're watching the DVD. That's actually CG for the special edition.
Are you serious?
No. Come on, sir. Come on.
Well, okay, Isaac, there are some classic Doctor Who DVDs that have a little bit of CG, but you can usually tell.
Clearly.
Because even though the DVDs were produced in the post-2000s, the CG looks like it's from like 1990 Industrial Light and Magic or something.
Of course. Can I say something radical here?
Absolutely.
I guess the fire burning into the film or contract, whatever it is, still looks way better than the lightsabers in Star Wars.
Oh,
like 77, excuse me.
You mean the original unedited?
The the bits where Obi-Wan and Vader are fighting, and then Obi-Wan.
Yeah, but you're talking about the non-specialized version, the originals,
proposed, whatever.
Yeah, those
deflects.
Those do look janky in the original 77 Star Wars.
Fight's still cool though. I just meant like the effects.
It's been a really long time since I really sat down and watched this and tried to follow it, but they're taking forever to get out of the cave. It's just people talking. Or maybe it's just because I'm not reading the closed captions.
Maybe. I think you just answered your own question.
Okay.
Well, it's the resolution finally. We've been waiting here. This is
the doctor found a stone with a hole in it, and they filled it with water.
Is that sanitary? At this time period,
this is pre-COVID. No reason to worry about that. I'm sure these cave people don't have any germs.
Sir, this is pre-bubonic plague.
Not around yet.
Okay.
Yeah, this is pre-bottled water. Like, people weren't all uptight.
This is pre-microplastics. Thank you very much.
Is it pre-rats, I wonder?
How could it be pre-rats?
No. No. If humans are around, rats have to be, close by.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all mammals supposedly evolved from early marsupials, so...
I thought it was fish, but okay.
Well, that's if you go further back, but the mammalian kingdom came from small marsupials.
Still doesn't explain the whole, sharing DNA similar to a banana, which is a berry.
Oh, you just gotta go even further back for that.
Dang invertebrates.
No. Oh, God. Never mind. I'm not even going to talk about that.
Here we go. It's the Muppet Show.
This is a intense visual.
This would be cool to have on Halloween. Somebody figure out how to do this.
No, but I would put a poster, a nice clean still frame of Susan holding the flaming skull. I would put that poster up on my wall.
Okay. Well... Okay.
You should do that. Take a still now. It's the closest thing I think I'll get to the rescuers, so I'll take it.
By the way, Isaac, they created a process for most of these classic Doctor Who DVDs or whatever. This in-house, they call it VidFire, like VIDFYRE or something like that. Mm-hmm. Because most of all these, they were originally, shot and produced on videotape. Even if some scenes were shot with 16 millimeter, they would still, finalize it on videotape. But then, as I think we discussed last time, a lot of these only survived because people shot them at home with their 16 millimeter film cameras shooting the television. And so, of course, those were analog film. So you had the 24 or whatever frames per second, where videotape is like instantaneous. Well, not instantaneous, but virtually instantaneous refresh rate. So most all these classic DVDs and reproductions, they took the 16 millimeter home camera stuff and they vid fired it, which means they filled in like the lost frames to make it appear like the original videotape rather than the 24 frame home movie archival stuff that people saved themselves. I don't know, that makes sense.
E equals MC squared. What? Huh?
Right.
Sorry.
So this is kind of an ambitious story. I think it doesn't date well because the cave people just come across as like stupid and whatever. That's fine, but it's not an absolute cracker, if you know what I mean. And what Doctor Who then would do is they would actually this is they would pick like an era and have them visit there like every other story. I think I explained this before. One story, one set of episodes would be a historical story. The next set would be some sort of science fiction story. And there were some really good historical stories that they did. I really like the Romans and the Reign of Terror. And I think there's one called the Smugglers, but now that I'm older and like I don't think of Doctor Who as some sort of like sci-fi opera thing, I kind of have a special appreciation for some of those older episodes that are set in historical times. So,
if for you, Isaac, like we talked about how there's the 3-dimensional, they're called roundels. That was never said in the early series. This is what fans call those circles. And there's the 3-dimensional wall that has obviously 3-dimensional texture. And then there's the 2D blow-up wall, right? The 2D blow-up wall is a photograph of like a foot mat that has been enlarged and blown up to look like the 2-dimensional roundels. But I never understood, maybe someone can tweet us, like why they couldn't just make the 3-dimensional roundels cover all the walls, why they had to use that 2D wall for a really long time. Like
budget.
Many episodes, many seasons of that 2D blow up image.
They're doing this thing where they're actually creating a cliffhanger for the next episode, which is going to be the story that introduces the Daleks, which is I don't get it. I don't know what.
What do you mean you don't get it?
The appeal of the Daleks, I mean, they're really lame, but they're,
Well, we're going to have a lot of episodes to talk about that in the near future.
Yeah.
But yes, because of obviously the serialized nature, these early seasons of Doctor Who were the black and white seasons are very much like the old Flash Gordon or something, where you're teased to be like, oh, just get a little tease of what's next.
There's radiation. We should get some radiation gloves. I mean, drugs.
That would definitely scare a lot of people, like, of the time, because, Suez Canal crisis or the Cuban Missile Crisis was, this year or the previous year, so that definitely probably scared a bunch of people.
I was on a little trolley service less than a week ago, and this veteran, he had served in the Marines during the Bay of Pigs, and he was talking about the Bay of Pigs on the little trolley tram service. And I don't know. I don't know what the story means, but it's fascinating.
So
I don't hear many conversations in casual life about the Bay of Pigs, but the Cuban Missile Crisis. But go on, Sean.
I don't remember what I was going to say. No, I remember what I was going to say. Isaac, what did you think of An Unearthly Child?
As a whole now, as a complete story.
As a whole entity, yeah. Again, per my favorite type of media being graphic novels, the whole thing, but of course single issues are fine. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good introduction to this very mysterious and, might I say, not fully well known. Is very, very not a. One would call him an anti-hero almost, or at least a very mysterious character. Like, he's got his own motivations, and he's the title character himself is not what you would call a traditional hero. I wonder if that is like almost again, forgive me, like just at the time. I wonder, because if you had like your Georges of the Jungles, or you had your, hear me out, your Flash Gordons, you had these young, like, you know, spry, like, I don't know, like hero men that, you know, like to scream at the top of their lungs, and they were American. I wonder if they instead wanted to bring in an alternative solution, maybe not an alternative solution, but an alternative perspective of, let's have this time traveler be like a somewhat crotchety old man, and who, you know, kind of maybe has seen life. He's been to many, you know, different places, as you know, as he claims. And so the act, or at least the idea of murder, is not beyond him. Like, that's complicated. It complicates. So this is a very, will we see this character kind of warm up? Will he, like, that's probably the appeal of the show now. Like, moving forward, I want to see if this character kind of like warms up and is not as ruthless almost. And
I wonder, like, with American media, like over the decades, like, has there been many quote unquote children's shows that got into such dark territory and imagery, like, right out of the gate? Because you could say something like, oh, well, TOS had all this stuff, but that wasn't marketed as like a kid's program. You know, that was like an evening prime time. It was like for all ages.
One of the most famous, best-selling young adventure horror novels of all time is Goosebumps. I was a little older for that, but it sold millions and millions of books.
Okay, I definitely remember books of that nature, but like children's, like, television, televised programming or whatnot. Can you think of any other purported kid show that was like so? And yeah, you would see skeletons in kid shows, but this is different.
I can think of one, and it's really subtle, but it's there. Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Kind of, but like you say, it was subtle though. Like
Muppet Babies was kind of dark sometimes.
I would say
I will think of a dark cartoon, but if it kills me.
Films. In film, I think of stuff like
MASH, the animated series.
Is that a thing?
No.
Is there? Oh, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is something like The Dark Crystal or Labyrinth.
Oh yeah.
But that's much later, and it's also a motion picture.
What about like the Secret of Nim, or
Neverending Story?
Okay, well, those things, The Secret of Nim and Neverending Story, that definitely gets into like a scary fantasy type situation. But again, the film, there's scary kids movie. I mean, because if we go open it up to movies, then yeah, Bambi and Snow White can be somewhat traumatizing.
Now in 2025, soon to be released, is the next season of Stranger Things. And that just picks up all the fucking tropes from the 80s and Spielberg movies and all that. You know, where the kids are the heroes and E.T.
True, and while kids do like Stranger Things, it's not like a kid's show.
I like Stranger Things. It is a kid's show. Come on.
No. Stranger Things is not a kid's show. Like,
okay.
No comment.
It's not the Wizards of Waverly Place or like anything like that.
No, not like that. No, but I think kids of the same age could watch both. I would show that
again. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna shut up, and I'm gonna ask you, how old would your son have to be before we watch Stranger Things?
Oh, I'd probably let a 5-year-old, but that's because I'm crazy like that.
No, me too. I don't think there's anything in there that's really that bad. But
I'm not talking about kids being allowed to watch something. I'm talking about something that is marketed and made strictly for kids. That's what I'm saying.
is there anything that's really been that bad that
I
was
could think,
marketed for kids?
I can think of movies that had stuff like this, but it's hard for me to think of television series, except for modern times. I can think of some examples in the last 10, 15 years, but other than that, I can't think of much.
What are your examples?
Oh, the easy one go to is the Clone Wars animated series, which was supposedly, well, it was made just for kids. Yes, of course, adult Star Wars fans will watch it, but for being a supposed kid show, there's a lot of scenes of torture, suicide, just like crazy assassinations. Like it gets over the top at times for being a kid show. Like, yeah, a surprising amount of torture and maiming and yeah, characters taking their own lives. But so you kind of mentioned it earlier. Like, so I've been saying it throughout these commentaries. I never really paid attention to the last 3 episodes as much as I did this time around, because I always looked at these episodes when I watched them in the past, like I just want to get through them, or might skip them all together, as many Doctor Who fans do. Is just watch an Unearthly Child and don't even think to revisit the Tribe of Gum. But I really pay attention, and even though there's definitely not much to the stories themselves, these episodes, like they're pretty straightforward, run of the mill situations, etc. I actually found myself enjoying the Tribe of Gum when I was watching it by myself more than I ever have. And I'm not exactly sure why, but it worked for me this time for the first time. And obviously there's so many more better examples of classic Doctor Who you could pull out. Reams more. But I really appreciated this more than I ever have before. And it didn't feel like homework for me watching these episodes on my own time to prepare. So yeah, I've never really felt this way about the Tribe of Gum.
Okay, all right. Isaac, tell us what you thought about this.
As a, I guess the very first asterisk episode I've seen of Doctor Who proper, I'm giving it a thumbs up. I don't know if we're rating this. I don't really care. I don't know what the rating system would be. I guess
we used to always rate, and I was non-committal either way. But I mean, you can give it a rating if you want, out of like 5 fractured skulls, 5 withered crones, cave crones, prehistoric crones, whatever you want.
No, I'll just give it a good like recommendation, and I'll say I'm feeling this episode. Yeah, I like overall the theme of no matter what era you're in, there will always be humans arguing from the dawn of man to the very end of man, wanting to murder the early man as well. That was at least the main point. Sorry if I'm a broken record here and repeating myself, spinning the tires, but that's what I caught on, and I'm going with like that of this episode of
it's Night of the Living Dead. Well, that was after this, sorry, but yeah, you'll see that come up again and again and again. People are such idiots in this show sometimes, but it's okay.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this series, I mean, just from this one story, but it'll continue throughout the classic series, throughout the decades, how, with American sci-fi or genre television, like Twilight Zone or Star Trek, it's like Twilight Zone or Star Trek, whatever you're watching, American sci-fi television of back in the day. It's either some type of adventure or it's some Twilight Zone, Black Mirror situation. But classic Doctor Who has this weird mix of, some sci-fi supernatural, but then it's being produced like old Masterpiece Theater on PBS. And it's a weird marriage of the concepts of like Star Trek and Twilight Zone, but then with tropes and acting that looks like televised Shakespeare or something like that. And that makes it incredibly unique, I think, compared to other genre series. It's a weird mixture of things to have.
All right, so what are we watching next on this podcast?
On this podcast, well, if we stick with the original charter plan, we will actually be doing a commentary on Rose. And then after Rose, we will return with, I can't remember what the name of the first episode was, but essentially the first Dalek story.
Which is the one after this, the Dalek.
Right. So we're going to do Rose, and then we will do the next episode after the Firemaker.
The Daleks is 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
You don't have to be there, Sean. You don't have to be there.
No, I want to be there. I have to go.
Well then it works. Yeah, because it is 6 episodes. It is a lot, and there may or may not be some padding in there. But how can you be getting into classic Doctor Who and not watch the first Dalek story? Like that would break all the rules. But anyway, yeah. So stay tuned for that. And at some point, because one never knows when these will come out, the new season. I don't know if it's called season 2 or what, because how many season 2s of Doctor Who are there? But the new episodes will be coming in a fortnight or so. So look for those as well on the feed. But closing out the show today, this is Eric.
This is Sean.
This is Isaac.
And until next time, and even if a Doctor Who commentary starts off with endless talk of death and murder and maiming,
don't panic and try to brain a caveman with a rock, because it gets better.